computer. Hello, Cindy. Lovely to be here with you today. I'm going to disclose that we know each other. We go back a little bit, but I'm fascinated by where you're at right now and what you're doing, which is so cool. It's the Akashic Records. But before we jump into that, I think people would just love to know a little bit about you.
Okay. Thank you, Jacqueline. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here with you. And yes, we do have a friendship, but we do go back a little bit. But a little bit about me is I currently live in Georgia. I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains of West Virginia, of the
Beautiful.
Appalachians in the United States. Lived primarily in a rural area, and I've always been very naturally intuitive and on a spiritual, many would call spiritual path, the unfoldment of truth and being a seeker. Um, so I'm currently doing Akashic Records and also coaching business transformation and helping entrepreneurial women primarily um, move through like their blocks, their limiting beliefs, the patterns that they're wanting to break through so that they can soar.
Mm.
And records, actually, I see it as a path of just, you know, it unfolded itself to me about 10 years ago, and I absolutely love it. So,
Wow. So how did that enter your field of concentration? Like, where did that come from?
well, actually, it was part of trying to understand and discern more about my own calling, my
Hmm.
own purpose, my um, why things were happening the way they were, helping to understand and accept and clarify about where I was headed. So just so happened to come to me through a friend that was an accountability buddy in a coaching program. And the more I got to know her, I just loved being in her energy. And I learned from her.
Hmm. Oh, wow, that's cool. So it found you when you needed it most, and yeah, that's interesting. Well, I'm going to admit that I obviously I'm aware of what the Akashic records are, but I know next to nothing about them really in any depth. So, if you could give us like an overview of what we're talking about when we say Akashic records.
Yes, the Akashic Records is basically, and my understanding is it's a library of all of the collective consciousness of every, let's say we were going into your records, Jacqueline, it would be an imprint basically of every emotion, every experience you've ever had. Um, it's a library that it can be visual, audio. You get a lot of information from it, and the purpose of it is to just record everything, um, but everything that you could possibly want to go back and know or go forward and know, because it's future, past, um, any lifetime that you've had as a soul, um, is there for your understanding.
So, am I correct in thinking then that since the beginning of space-time, we've accumulated these life experiences, and so we all have figuratively our own shelf in this Akashic library?
Yes, that's one way of looking at it. I see it more as a huge book. A lot of times when I go in, but it could be that we open in a field or wherever. It's usually a message that's coming through, and the information that is shared is usually pertinent to what you need to know in this moment that we're
That was
going.
literally on the tip of my tongue. I was going to say, is it on a need to know? So you don't need to know everything in that moment. And so what you do is you curate the information that comes through in such a way that you can holistically help the individual to make sense of, say, a blockage.
Yes.
So could you give me, would you be able to, top of your head, not a real example, but kind of a realistic hypothetical of somebody and how this would help them?
Yes. So, hypothetically, someone comes and they are struggling perhaps with um, challenges around money or poverty consciousness or wealth, not being able to whatever, and they're somehow have looped it to or connected it to relationships, or it seems, to go, but let's just say money issues. And then what we can do is I can ask, once we have permission to open your records, go into your records, and then can ask to be shown. It's a
Hmm.
much higher, it's an expansive space, and ask to be shown the root of where this started. And often I'll be transported to a visual um, or audio. I'm given a movie basically of what I interpret as what happened as I translate it to that person and ask, does this resonate with you in any way? And a lot of times, that information that is provided to me at that point, or we can go deeper. You know what I mean? The records will give me what we need to solve that, and often it's clarity, um, some healing. Maybe they made a choice in a different consciousness level. Um, maybe when they were a child that they attached to, well, that's the way the world works. And we can unwind that
Hmm.
to understanding of what they consciously want to choose now. So we can
Right.
resolve
So you
and what the
release it.
result, we can totally release it. But not only that, but then they have this like release and unwinding of within their body, within their field of, oh, okay. So we get to the root, we undo that, and um, decide. They get to choose which they would like prefer to have as an understanding of how the world works instead.
Hmm. So, like, because everything is in the now moment, so even if it's a past life, that life, is it true to say that that life is still continuing somewhere? So, would you releasing whatever that problem was from a past life, does that possibly release that person in that past life as well?
It seems to unwind, and it would be future, past.
Yeah. Wow.
It, things energetic, so it clears the field.
Wow. So, why would we bring through now? What's the point of bringing through blockages?
The point of bringing them through, the point of having them.
Yeah, what's the
Oh,
point of incarnating with these embedded problems? What's the point?
see, from my perspective, and this is an understanding that I have now that I've been working in the records and have moved through quite a few blockages, it's my understanding that that is to increase your awareness. It's not that we chose that necessarily consciously, it's just unhealed parts of ourselves that are coming back to work it out, to untie those knots, to release them and let them go so that more of our authentic self can come in the body.
Right. So who started the Akashic Records? Who was the first person to like actually speak about these records?
I'm sorry, I don't know that history. I do know that like Edgar, I think his name was Edgar Casey,
Mm-hmm.
had spoke. Actually, there's records of where he had actually was exploring that back in his day. But as far as um, where that came up, it could have been tens of thousands of years ago. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I know that the Emerald tablets, for example, has spoken about the Hall of Records or the Hall of Amenti. And I suspect if you look at all the ancient traditions, there is this sense of record keeping. There has to be, because otherwise, why do we have a life review? Right? It's the whole point. So, um, it's just really, really fascinating. And so basically, you've given me a very practical example. Somebody who has money, a blockage around money, maybe a poverty, something that happened in a previous life, they release it. And then what happens? Like, what's the process? What's the mechanics behind releasing? What happens with the energy?
It depends on the, let me clarify. First of all, we're in their records,
Hmm.
and how to experience it, unfold, or whatever is totally their free will. But their Akashic record keepers, it has been my experience, will actually help facilitate it. I'm holding space. The record keepers will, and their guides, their team that are here in the
Hmm.
non-physical, will help to facilitate that unraveling. And a lot of times it is merely just knowing that this incident had happened and it was at the age of 3 or 4 or something like that, and something they overheard, and realizing that they could, they can choose it. So we do a lot of clearing. Um, while we're in the records, there's a lot of healing and obviously a lot of understanding that takes place. And then eventually, once you've processed it, acceptance, and then re-choosing.
Hmm.
You'd rather have or prefer to have instead. So I don't know that it's more of a healing process, the way
Hmm.
I see it, often physical level, and an acceptance of, oh, that's where that has happened. The awareness, the increased awareness, which also helps increase their spiritual connection and love themselves in a greater, deeper way.
Hmm. So
My
positive outcomes all round, I would imagine. And is it often the case that people will see, experience an outcome that's really positive, and they'll come back and say, what else have I got going on?
or often people come in, 2 to 3 questions or issues that they would like to explore, and we certainly can take them there. And oftentimes, that first issue or whatever, they'll go a lot deeper. The
Hmm.
awareness that comes to them, then we end up going down that exploration route. And over time, though, I see that it does absolutely help
Hmm.
people come more into their own and to be in a place of understanding, acceptance, and peace.
Beautiful. So, so did you get specific training? Like my question would be, what makes you be able to do this? Is it a training thing that you've gone through?
I've gone
Yeah.
through training for over a number of years
Hmm.
to participating with peers and with mentors around that to understand and explore it even deeper. And I go into my own records pretty regularly too.
Yeah, well, I mean that I was going to say, does it work like that? Are you able then to empower yourself to be able to do that?
Yes. Yes.
Wow, wow, wow. And do you find that, say, for example, we're talking about you right now, are there certain time periods that are more magnetized for you, like certain lives that had a lot more going on, or is it across the board and you're constantly finding new experiences?
Um, it's whenever something comes up, like I'll call it a snag, or something that keeps coming up for me that I have not been able to unravel in another way. I'll just go
Hmm.
in and explore. What do I need to know about this? What can you share? Or if it's with a relationship with someone, what do I need to know? Can you show me a previous? or other lifetime or contract or agreement. I mean, it highlights any contracts or agreements that you might have had come in with, and so that for your understanding, we can also many times dissolve or evaporate those, or come to a healing while they're actually in that space.
Right. Is somebody able to do that for a loved one, or do they have to give permission and be present with you?
I'm confused as to.
Yeah, so what if I wanted to gift this experience, but I didn't want to tell you, I didn't want to bring the person, and I just said, listen, I've got somebody who's really struggling. Could I gift this? Could we do this, or do you need the actual person to be in front of you?
In their Akashic records, we would need their permission. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely, and
absolutely. Yep.
it's a permission granted kind of
Yeah.
only access.
Yeah. So
And
people could gift this and ask their loved one, "Oh, I'm going to gift you this. Do you want to do it?" And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's great." Yeah.
yeah,
So that's how it works.
yeah, you could do that. But yeah, to um, they have to be present, not present, but they have to give permission, and we explore it together.
Hmm.
There may be other, but that's how I do it.
Yeah, perfect. So I'm going to put links underneath this video, Cindy, and I'm thinking that people would just reach out to you through whatever we put underneath. And is it through Zoom, something like that?
Yeah, I have a calendar link that I can share with you, and then if someone wants to know more, all my social media contact information is on that page as well. Just
Yep.
reach out to me.
Yeah. How long does a session take?
It varies, but most people choose, uh, especially the first time, maybe a 50-minute session, and we can usually cover 2 to 3 questions or topics that you want to explore at the
Hmm.
time.
Brilliant. Well, I look forward to exploring this with you, and I probably will give an update as well at some point. But I'll put all that information. Thank you so much, Cindy, for talking and sharing your wisdom around the Akashic Records. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.